do I have to score this car in this way, or do we want to use restraints? Something like these balls and... But finally, you want to do the clock yourself. So if you are interested in this subject and you think this tutorial is useful to you, stay with us. Well, let's start, in order to program, on each of these parameters, that it is the money position. To the post-year we have, it is enough for me to grab clip art. I click on this time icon on stability when I click on this icon. We see that it gives me one writing space and the parameters turn red, which should make the details clear. Because of the dependency created, it says when it's not you, this is no longer just through this code, it is. Parameters are executed. In saying the to value, the second look is also there, which can also be for us. The frequency debate is how many times you move an item per unit of its numerical value. However, this movement is in seconds, determines how much this feature allows for movement and displacement. Shows you. Well, I click on this layer to open it, and a penalty, for example, select an individual position. I choose I miss you so much, and try to figure out where I can talk when a package is created. Now I just press 5 and I'm typing 4. I said, if 5 is my frequency, vibrations also occur every second, and the only solution is either security or my displacement. If I say now, I increase the value. See that I add to it, the vibrations also increase from above. They take it. I increase the difference by 1 year more than the second. Compared to the displacement, this point is more important for me. It hits me, and understand it better at 400, this shifting. But the point in coding is that the car should be written as it is, both in capitalization and spacing between the letters. Pay attention fully. If the distance between Europe and one of these is misspelled, which one is it? And when they mark me with a sign 1, they tell us which part of our code needs to be corrected. Now that I'm copying for mail, you can see that the transparency of my voice can be adjusted. As you can see. And think, Saturday morning 2, now 2:20. You see, like a star burning, whether to rain or blow it for me. I say now copy. It's necessary to see its behavior, now on what level it is, and how it acted, you see everything. Copy these codes for other projects that exist. Now let's move on to this security car. Now I put down the base of this car for you to work according to the job. We have main stars, the body of the car, the wheels, and the parts that exist. The wheels are separate from the body. We need with the branch. Pay attention to the movement. Now if you don't know how to qualitative pick, you can watch my videos here, why I came and I give my body when necessary, when I give the respected body of the car at the position part, because this part is interdependent. The car both horizontally and it has 3 vertical, front, back, up and down movements can be wrong in the percentage, which to be able to specify each of these parameters separately, just give a value on the PC. Right-click the position and press N from there. Now separately in the direction of X and 1.5, move have the separate access, and I'm coming because most pictures of my car move on the path in the up and down direction. And I go mostly to the left and right, and I come to code 4. Oh, the Persian positions move along the y-axis. Well, now if I see that the animation shape is improved, I will do the same work better. What I did for the car body, I do the same for the wheels. Right-click the right-click position and set the amount in. I move the other value I had for the direction with the paste. Even I can come when I move the body committee of the car backwards. Now, where the back of your hand should be, I can say 1V glass and in or even less or more depending on your intention. Give it to the car body and the protein so that it moves up and down a bit. from the back, as we know, from the front. When I put the body in the back, it's much cleaner what I'm doing. Now, to have the overall movement of the car, and bring a cry to them and cover all these elements with that cry, and see how they can do it. Hitting in my pocket and shaking all the whole car are brought under control, and that's beautifully done. Well, sometimes you've seen a series of images, videos, or car shapes with a slight soft shake, the camera on the hand. For this job, if I say to later, you'll see that I have a soft move here for sure. Watch out if this number upper was visible and your image is out of the frame. We also need to scale your frame a lot to cover around it. Well, let's move on to coding a board unlike the others. Even for using the club, we need to have quality. Let's create a metro so that we can place it in these rounds as written. L2 has to open the big old man's route with a close parentheses I say which half of these loops I'm showing you now. If they see me, I have a half laptop. Cleaning up. Also, I should say that the points that don't differ from laptops with open and close parentheses. If you write commands and there is nothing inside the parentheses, it is as if it were the same site. If we see this part, let's discuss ping pong laptops together. It has one ping pong mode and one back and forth mode is present. Now, to better understand it, I say that I make this football half rubbing half to 1 second to come from left to right and move. Now, they seal it here and I come and write it down. You can find the command now when I name it. We see what back and forth form this event takes. Has fallen and is happening. Now with what meaning of HI, which means continuity, when I have one error and not even this is an effect. I do. Now it's the same path with the same game for me. It goes on indefinitely. Let's see now. This hat is taken off the truck, and he secretly deals with the passports I have in my bag. This cycle must. Goes back to the beginning of the half. He starts again from the beginning. Watch the movement. When from the clothes I use. This happens. When I have a half frame of another film, I come from the beginning to the end. It adds the same punishment and a half movement went. And the return is holding the same ping pong here. Now let me clean the shadow of the same thing I said to see that. Empty flight has the same command. It performs, but it is clear from the flower site that it must complete one cycle for me. Now I'm not saying we've cut frames, we're trying. I mean pulling it out of linear motion and moving it a bit to take on a curve to people from the beginning we said I'll get one. When it's complete. Now please let me tell you about this board. If we see my creatures until before you say frames come, they don't move. And my ant standing still as soon as I have the worms. Passes, his movement starts, and the opposite means until before you say frames. The movement of my place is happening. From the beginning, when frames end, it's no longer there for me. Well, this method to control the benefit I provide in coding. Now let's move on to this European animation we saw together. See how it should be done. I'll first place the ball. Spiders place the ball at the lowest point on the computer for its rotation. Be careful of this. Then I say game. Correct, it is made big and does the ball intelligence in 1 second. When I'm on the ground, playing the first film pushes 10 halves or 12 balls up and says in. Now frame 20 can take a fraction of the amount in a second and go out to buy right now. 1.5 linear animations are here. I see the ball's movement. When it goes up excessively, now 1 or 2 frames come back from that height and accelerate. It catches and comes down. For this work, I bring the middle and make it precious, and I come to the reactor. Now that I've taken the line like this, that is located above and coming down at speed. Now, my ball has a better softness. Now when obtaining the position mention points are used. I make this O line my intention in situations where you know I continue it when I hit it again. Search for me. When it has 1 rotation and 1 rotation, just press the button on the sofa as they have created a topic, because it is now rotate in the middle and on sand with the star time command, which I'll tell you about Ali, or I can also say it's cultural. Go to tension. Now see, everyone knows if I want this symbol to be more attractive, you can resize it. Also, they bring dependent skating and animation. As you can see, when the ball approaches the ground, when it reaches a distance from the ground, the cross-sectional area. Well, I can take advantage of this opportunity and come and mark or other as well in this way. When you hold down the shadow command key, you can also use the lap command, and of course, include the ball. Again, if we want to strengthen a team's P-League, we can use their Iskoevich technique, meaning the stretch and the broadening become my ant. If it's enough for this, I can bring my ball with scale out of dependence and come when it's coming. He wants to extract it when the ball is close to the ground. Come closer to its original dimensions and spread out again, which they do this job for it and the point. I copy-paste the things that happened to him, and until those times, when I put the movies. See, just as easily the animation was done, and now with reference placement for some balls, they can make the chicken. To get it, we give you a series of coins in the coin shower, where you can easily half secure. Now, Andy's money that we see and the smoke, they took the halves and put them in different positions at various times in the queue. If I have Shapur in a way that you see him so easily, if we enable a problem for money and you see them half, scale to the depth of field of view. Make one larger, make them smaller and differentiate their places. This rainfall becomes much more realistic. But let's move on to the time commands. Well, one point that from the example relationship that I myself I'm doing in the movements that rotate, and for the rest of Persepolis, it's not very efficient. Go in there too. For example, 10. Turning means it rotates 10.5 degrees in half a second. If you increase the speed, in 1 second, it rotates 100 degrees. The speed of gear rotation now we want to give it to 1,000 in this calculation, 10, that in half a second, transparency increases by 10%. It increases more until I come. Second. For example, on 4 seconds, it definitely increases by 40%. Left that we give, it comes and adds to it. For example, if I come in a position X-oriented 33 meters, then in 1 second, 30 pixels this cycle enters the frame. And enters the frame. When it's 2 seconds, other tasks that you insist on, when we want 1 full time and 1.5 programs. When we make this refinement, it helps us a lot. For this purpose, it is enough to choose a half-text layer. Now whatever I say, 20 times, I open on terrorists there. I also hit Israel's time at 50. You see that one number appears for me, and when you say hello, for example, when it becomes number 1.5, it is executed. It can be. If it comes between a series of decimal numbers for me, and I don't know that whole number. If I want to see the complete integer, we use one of the officials in Tehran, and in this file that code. That is for me. An inhumane number is done until it reaches 50. No longer are these decimal numbers that become irrational. Now if I want to prevent it, now let it be an expression with a percentage. If it is dollars, of course, it should be positive. I hit it, gap of and I hit the site I want to type for it, which is now stuck to nothing and is moving with it. Similarly for dollars.
Today we are going to learn this interesting motion graphics. We make all this animation in After Effects with the simplest shapes, and learning the principles of animation, we make such a morph from these shapes, and the complete source of these files is available on my channel, which you can download. First, I make a square composition with these dimensions and frame rate. I double-click on the shape so that it appears inside the composition. Now I change the size of the shape so that it becomes a rectangle. I select the ellipse shape and change its dimensions to make it oval and cylindrical. I use the fill effect to change the color and create a sense of dimension on the shapes. I take a copy of the ellipse and move it to the last layer. For all 3 layers, I activate the animations you see to create the movement of my object. I make a loop of the created movement and cut the layer and change its colors. Duplicate the layers again and increase the animation time. I take all the layers inside a pre-comp to create the depth of the fake that I want. Well, using the linear color key effect, I select the parts that I want to have depth and change their color. Using the fill effect, I change the color of the object and cut the desired area with the mask tool. As you can see, what I am doing is adding a light shadow to the object. I repeat the same thing for the floor and ceiling of this cylinder. Well, this is from the first object. The next object is a hemisphere. I select the shape of the circle, and after changing the size, I animate it, as you can see. I take a copy of the layer and change its color with the fill effect. Now we cut it using the mask tool. In order to make the animation, it is enough to cut the layer at these points and change its color. Well, now I just need to reverse the range of the mask to make it right. Now I will do the same method for the hemisphere as I did to create the fake depth and light shade of the cylinder. The third object is a cube. I make a square shape with these dimensions and then parent it to a null object. I animate the size and position part to create the movement of my object, Now I duplicate the animated layer, I change the color of the object using the fill effect, and create the animation. As you can see, by changing the keyframes, my animation improved. Now I will animate the null object. Well, something is going wrong. It's not what I want. I still have to replace these keyframes now it's fixed. Well, now I just need to cut my layers up to here and duplicate them to create a few seconds loop motion. Well, I have to change the colors so that the movement is correct. Let's go to create fake depth and light shadow. We did this before with the previous two objects. The steps are the same as before, only the direction and place of the light shadows are different. You can do it according to the video. I will make a new composition, and I will also make a background for it to have a background. Now I will animate the cube that I made. In this video, I also showed how to make animations with balls. I do the same for the cube. I change the position to separation and keyframe the Y position in this way, and make this animation. The movement is very simple and linear, that's why change to ease the middle keyframe and change it in the Graph Editor tab so that the line of the animation cube is created in a smooth and correct way. Split the layer and pre-comp. I take 3 copies of the pre-comp layer of the cube and replace the hemisphere and the cylinder with it. For this, it is enough to hold the Alt key and drag and drop when you select the layer. Well, in order to keep the cube moving a little in the air, I use a time ramp. Well, I copy the layers and adjust the distance again. Well, the cylinder cannot be morphed from the side facing the hemisphere, so that this jump does not occur. It is enough to change the timing of the cylinder's comp, so with this first cut and displacement we can see the cross-section of the cylinder. Another problem is that the rotation direction of the cube is different from the other 2 objects, so I change its rotation direction. We can change the background color of each object, which is according to your opinion. I also use the CC slant effect to make shadows of objects.
Hello everyone, I hope you are well. I am Amin from Amino Weeds channel. Today, I'm going to talk about the cool Joystick plugin, and create this beautiful animation by giving it a joystick controller. First, I will do this for a texture, and then I will teach how to change the textures and how to move them. Also, if you like my videos, share them with your friends on LinkedIn. Let's get started. I will enter the background of the basketball court that I have placed for you. This is also a number of different ball textures that we are going to use. To start the texture, I import the volleyball ball and take a compose from it. I will add the CC sphere effect to it. As you can see, this two-dimensional texture took the form of a spherical ball. Now I can rotate and move the ball in different directions from the control effects section. In order for the ball material to become two-dimensional, I changed the ambient and diffuser values from the shading section. I can also reduce the size of the ball from the radius part. For the shadow of the ball, the drop shadow effect can be given, and it can be added from the layer style section. Now we come to the main part, which is working with the Joystick plugin. I increase the magnification of the timeline so that we can see the timeline frame by frame. The values that are supposed to be in the animation, I will fix them at frame 0. Now, I will move the timeline one frame forward and enter the new values, and this time I will move the ball to the right side, and determine the appropriate rotation direction. I come forward one more frame, and this time I move the ball to the left. Origin can also be used to copy keyframes. On frame 4, this time I move the ball upwards. And in frame 5, I bring the ball down. Now I select all the keyframes and click on the Joystick Tools button. As you can see, wherever I shake this control, the ball moves in the same direction, and with a proportional rotation. If I want to make a change in the parameters, I just need to click on this icon, and the values will come out of dependency mode. After making the changes, I click on this icon again so that the values become dependent. As you can see, the values changed. In order to change the textures of the ball, it is enough to enter the other textures into the texture-related command. As you can see, the texture of the balls will be changed in order. I create another switch to change the textures at the same time. and I enter all the textures into it, and arrange them in this way. I enter the composition of textures again, and make a keyframe for one of the textures in position 5 and create a joystick for it. Now, if I shake it, nothing happens. Be sure to pay attention to the name of the selected joystick, and click on the dependency icon. Now, by changing the joystick, the textures change. It is enough to print the pickup position of the textures to the movement position of the balls. As you can see, it was done. I am going to teach about making this video. In this video, we are going to talk about rigging and character animation in After Effects. and how to rig and animate the character, from preparation in the design software to sorting in After Effects, and we are going to see a complete tutorial together. Thank you for following me on LinkedIn and YouTube, and sharing my page with your friend. I downloaded the Duik Angela plugin from the site and then followed the installation steps according to the video. We will check the first character together, which is layered and designed in Photoshop. As you can see, I have different parts of the body and face layered, and it is important that I do this layering before rigging and animating. The layers should be created according to the connection point of that part of the body. For example, the hand consists of 3 joints, the arm, the forearm and the wrist. Leg layering is made up of 3 parts. Of course, I must say that the 3 main parts are thighs, legs, knees and ankles. But another important point is that in the overlapping connection points on the 2 components, it should be circularly curved so that the layers do not come out when bending. But if there is an accessory like a bag or a book in the character's hand, we have to parent it on the main joint. Now that the layering is done, it is enough to enter our file into After Effects. As soon as we import the character file, we will come across this box. In the Import Kind section, we click on Composition Retain Layer Size to access the layers of our character file individually. Because we want to use the Duik Angela script, we have to check these checkboxes in the Preferences section of the Scripting and Expressions tab so that the script is activated for us. Now I choose Duik Angela from the Windows section. I click on the Apply option, and Duik Angela is activated for me. Now I'm going to organize the layers here, starting from the topmost layer, which is on the left and consists of 3 parts. I'll take it together, and set a red color label for it. In order to place the anchor point on the layer, it is enough to use the Alt plus Home plus Control key. The anchor points must be placed exactly at the connection points and joints. For example, when I reduce the offset of the arm and forearm layer, I see that circle that the anchor point must be in the middle so as not to protrude when moving. In order to see the correct movement of the components, it is enough to print them to each other. I said that we can print any accessory we have to the main components. I do the layering of the rest of the body parts like the layering of the left hand. For the head part, if you have the face part separately, it is enough to turn the head into a per-comp, and insert the face parts like eyes, eyebrows, nose and mouth into that comp. In order to make the skeleton of the left hand, I first select 3 layers, try to make sure that these 3 layers are in order. In Angela, I click on the logo from the hominoid part. You can see that the skeletonization was done correctly for me. The point that I chose 3 layers before I did the skeletonization was that with this, I can create the skeletonization in the detailed points, on the anchor points that I had already placed, and I don't need to make my skeletonization too much. In the text section, one can change the names of the layers. However, I can choose to change the name of my layers first or last, and I can determine the number of letters to be deleted. I do this for other layers as well. But the important thing that you should pay attention to in this plugin is that choosing the order of the layers is important. For example, if I take the right layer of the leg without order from top to bottom and click on the log from the hominid part, you will see that the order of my skeleton is wrong. Now, I will select the order of layers, based on priority from top to bottom, and you can see that after clicking on the rig leg, our skeleton will be created. We will rig the rest of the layers based on whether they are left or right, and now it is the turn of the body. From this part we can rig the body to make the character's head. After finishing the skeletonization, now I have to parent the body parts on these skeletons. You can do the printing operation easily according to the image I have left for you on the right. I will increase the speed of the video a little so that it does not take too much time. Now that the printing is finished, I will select all the bones and in this part, one will apply the Effect tab. Well, rigging is done. Now I can turn off the guide layers from this part. When I move the icon, you can see that the joint moves with it. We can see it on the leg joint. If you drag any of the members, and you see that the distance is reduced, you should remove the auto stretch check from the stretch section. you will see that it is fixed. I select all the controls and in the walk-run cycle section, I check that my objects are parented correctly, and then I cycle on the walk-run cycle. Now our character is walking and moving, and I can change the type of movement and the feeling of movement from the settings. In walk-run cycle, which we change here together. As I am working with the options, I will give a general explanation about them. Use the first three values to start and stop the cycle. The general motion controls both the walk and run cycles. The walk and run values control the two cycles. You can easily animate the transition from one to the other by cross-fading these values. The main parameters are the general settings to globally customize and characterize the animation. You can use the individual limb adjustments to further customize the cycle. The advanced parameters can be used to tweak the cycle on a lower level. Some useful data is exposed at the bottom of the effect. You can set the main character traits, height, energy, with a few arbitrary values. The value have to be adjusted relatively to the character walking and running, and are subjective. Changing them gives a feeling of height, energy, softness. The softness controls the drag and overlapping animation asterisk of the limbs. For both cycles, you can adjust the speed at which the character is moving. This doesn't change the speed, frequency, of the steps, but their amplitude. As in real life, a given character will approximately always keep the same step frequency, but change the amplitude of the steps to change its walking or running speed. Even the frequency of a run cycle and a walk cycle are similar. This being said, don't hesitate to animate the step frequency in the advanced parameters section when you're animating the transition from the walk cycle to the run cycle if you feel the run cycle should be a bit faster. There are two types of walk cycles, realistic and dancing. With the dancing mode, the body has 2 bounces per step, like Mickey Mouse. For each limb, you can individually tweak each and every single part of the animation. The properties labeled swing control the rotation of the corresponding part, and the softness usually controls the drag and overlapping animation asterisk of the parts. You can use the time offset to offset the cycle and time. This is useful, for example, when using the quadruped trick. Apply a walk cycle to the front legs, which is offset by plus or minus 20% from the same walk cycle on the back legs. Use the step amplitude and frequency to override all other settings and control them directly. The values exposed in the animation data section are the actual animation. When setuping the walk, run cycle with a custom, non-Duik rig, you can use the expression pickwhip to these values to apply the animation to specific properties. Just add plus value at the end of the expression generated by the pickwhip. The arms animation uses FK. You need to connect them to angle properties. The feet animation uses IK. Connect them to position properties. The leg height parameter should have been set automatically by Duik, but with custom rigs or specific characters, you may need to adjust this, so the cycle is correctly computed. It is the length of the straight leg, from angle to hip, in pixels. Finally, some useful values are exposed in the computation section, which may be used in your own expressions, to synchronize other parts to the cycle animation, for example. One value is especially useful, the cycle duration, which is available in seconds or frames. To render perfect loops, you can set the work area or the composition duration to this value. Thank you for staying with me until the end of the video. Give special thanks to yourself for learning something new. Thank you for following me on LinkedIn and YouTube, and sharing my page with your friend.
لایک و سابسکرایب یادتون نره. مرسی.
Thank you for staying with me until the end of the video. Give special thanks to yourself for learning something new. Thank you for following me on LinkedIn and YouTube, and sharing my page with your friend.
پیشرفت میریم تا پلوتون تو هم همین سر نخو بگیر و برو دو آره لایک و سابسکرایب یادتون نره مرسی